And this month we're going to talk about the kind of like the tactile, doable, like actual actionable items that we do that are called self-love. And the basis of so much of our path to self-love is not always going towards like the blocks in the way of self-love, which we definitely do a lot of, especially in my work. But what we also want to focus on with as much reverence is the permission to follow the sensations of pleasure, of joy, of exalted emotions and frequencies within your body. So much of like the self-work world is, kind of orienting us towards what is wrong. And, and like with good do, like, it's like we need ways to look at and like methodologies on how to work with the blocks and the limits and like what's wrong. And a lot of the time, and I hugely focus on this in my work, is what we won't stop doing what we were conditioned to do unless our body's somatic, unconscious nervous system has a better alternative. So what is that better alternative? So we could be doing all the self-work in the world and like, ripping away those defense mechanisms, but until our body knows and has practiced and it feels secure and safe in a mechanism of safety and love, then it's not going to give up another defense mechanism. It's not going to leave you like high and dry. So we want to actually spend just as much time building this ability to be resourced, to feel and connect with and give ourselves permission to enjoy these higher frequencies, these like amazing, incredible temples that we have, these bodies that we are given that can hold an epic amount, like a fucking crazy amount of joy, pleasure, sensations of like unity, right? And sometimes we really need to get out of our conditioned, limited mind. So we're going to kind of talk about how we do that in order to just allow for these sensations. Because it's not like these sensations are something that's given to us, or we need to find them, or we need to learn a technique to create them. Like those sensations are us. They are within the core programming of who we are. So it's just our ability to allow for pleasure, and then understand that when we actually feel a sensation of pleasure, that we are meant to follow that channel and move into it and focus on it, because when we focus on it, then it like expands and it becomes our world, sort of like anything that we focus on, right? So we want to, again, look at how much our orientation is towards the fuck, the what's wrong, the trauma, the stress, the anxiety, the depression. And of course, that doesn't always feel like a choice. Like we're not like, I'm choosing depression every day. But we have to look at like, there's this way of actually like throwing a lifesaver into your thoughts and your mind and your body, and doing like a channel change, like a reset, and being like, okay, we've spent a lot of time focusing on that. Now, like, and for the thing that we're less practiced in, we need to build up a strengthen a muscle in, is like, how can I now just take my focus, because this is a practice of focus and concentration, and laser it into the like tranquil peace, these streams of, pleasure, relief, relaxation that also flow through me. And when I can focus on that, when I can actually train the mind to go from there to here, it's like, at first it's like, it's so hard to get the mind to get out of that mode, and it's like, okay, but once I practice this one over and over and over, it starts to become automatic. It starts to become my resting state. So can you imagine that? Like if we had a world built of pleasure as a resting state. And I truly believe that this is what we are meant for. And quite honestly, that's been so much of my journey as well. My resting state used to be critical, used to be fucking anxious, really controlling, right? And now my resting state most of the time is one of complete acceptance and peace. I literally can feel peace and joy in my body most of the time, right? And if I fall out of that, then I'm like, oh, hey, I'm not in that place anymore. I need to get back into my practices. I need to do some mindset stuff. I've got to get back to my resting state, because that is the place where my body falls back into a state of healing. A state of relaxation is the only place where our body will be healing. Our body cannot heal or recover if it is constantly getting a signal of a stress hormone, hypervigilance, anxiety, depression. It's like it's just surviving at that mode. So as women, so many of us, just don't know any different. That's where we lived. And we're resting in a place with pretty big adrenal fatigue. We push our bodies to overdo and overwork and overproduce, and then we're actually really quite exhausted. Our organs, our vital energy, our chi, our life force is depleted, rather than kind of like full and juicy and vital and providing the source of well-being that we need in order to kind of move through a really crazy world. So this is a practice of really learning how to self-source in your own sensual nature, in our own sexual energy. So in our tantric practice, sexual energy is, it's like the honey, it's like the life force that is given and can feed every one of our organs to a restored place of, functioning really well and autonomously and harmoniously with the rest of the body. So our job sometimes is, again, just to, discover what's blocking that flow, what's blocking those channels. The other thing is, have you ever developed those channels? Most likely not, unless you've had this like long withstanding tantric practice or energetic practice that you've been working with for years, like this is what was essentially robbed from us as the dominant masculine culture. And I'm not saying men, but I'm saying the masculine energy got, swung really out of balance, and the feminine got suppressed. And so what is our beautiful kind of like divine, creative, sensual, mystical ways of being were demonized and shamed and repressed and, exploited. So as women of this age, of women of this era, we're still trying to climb back out of bringing this harmonic resonance back to humanity